Hello and welcome to Confidently Wrong, a show by regular dudes talking with confidence about content we have no right to speak about with any kind of authority, but do it anyway. I'm Wesley Nakamura, and as always, I'm joined by award-winning director Brian Redondo and Savon Jones, aka Captain Bonnie. This is episode 131, and we use our new web wings to zip around the PS5 Spider-Man 2 game. I'm confident that it's going to be the best show you've ever listened to, and well, hey, if it's not, you can always ask us for a refund.
Incredible!
Hello, gentlemen! Welcome back. Good to see you all. Savon with the twist, Brian with the jacket.
Yeah, and
It's
I'm growing the beard back.
Wes with a t-shirt.
Wes with
t-shirt.
a t-shirt.
If I'm not wearing a t-shirt, I'm at work and I'm wearing a button-up.
That's your
This
playoff
episode,
beard.
we get to talk about Spider-Man and the NBA in-season tournament. Just kidding. We're not going to talk about that.
Maybe we should. What's up with those bowling alley courts? Come on.
They do look like bowling alley courts.
Shuffleboard.
Some of them are cool. Some of them are not fun, but whatever. It's fine. I like it. It's a gimmick. And hey, the games have been mostly pretty good and competitive. And you know, the coaches are saying, like, let's try and win this thing, right? Like, yeah, it's not the finals, but let's try and
That's
win.
what it's all about.
Are they saying that because they're getting paid extra to say that?
Yes, but that's what they should be doing.
Maybe.
That's what they should be doing.
I mean, it's entertainment
At least,
at the
I
end of
guess
the
they're
day.
buying into it.
Yeah, and it's
One way or
entertainment,
another,
right?
yeah.
Like, if you're not trying to sell it, like, this is not just for the purity of the competition. Like, there's an aspect of entertainment here, so I'm okay with it. I like it. I think, hey, anything more to bring in some eyeballs? It's not fake, right? Like, I mean, it is actual competition. It's not just like, oh, you know, like you gotta design a jersey and that team wins the competition. It's like an actual, you know, you're
That
still
would
playing
be a
basketball.
fun competition.
Oh God, just don't let Nike
Well,
do it.
Yeah,
Everyone
I know. God,
loses.
this year's we've been talking about this, Sav. This year's city jerseys, I'd say
Thumbs down.
90% of them are pretty boring, and
It's because they
don't
pump out
fit.
a new one every year like a damn
Yeah,
COD
it's too
game.
much.
It's like, dude, just like this doesn't have to be an annual thing. You don't have to put out jerseys like a 2K game. Dude,
Yeah.
take some time, let it marinate. And if you got something dope, let's do it for a couple years. Like,
And they've landed on some pretty good ones, and then they're like, well, the program is you're supposed to get a new one every year, so they don't let them keep it. Like Phoenix's the Valley
Those were
shirt
tough.
or jersey was awesome. The Miami Vice ones were
they
awesome,
were.
right? Like
The Heat
they're-
culture one, on the other hand.
Ugh, it just looks like a practice jersey. Like so many of the ones
This one
this
looks like a
year,
cult.
specifically, Chicago's looks like a practice.
The
jersey.
Warriors, what the hell is that?
The Warriors is all like
someone took
wonky.
Microsoft like Word pick art and just
word
warped
art.
the thing.
Right?
I'm like,
yeah.
what? Dude, I was doing that back in
And
2004.
They're like done. The Lakers one, I know it's based on a T-shirt from like the '60s that they wore, like a warm-up shirt that they wore, but like it just
why
looks
would you
really
base
bad.
your jersey off a warm-up shirt from the 60s? That's a bad premise from the bounds.
They put the Los Angeles word font in a triangle, but because Los and Angeles are such differently like number of letters in them, it's like LOS going up with a space and then an A, and the N from the Angeles sits at the top of this peak of letter mess, and on a jersey that is rounded, having this letter form it's
Then the
awful.
N becomes the most important letter.
And the
in
colors,
Los Angeles.
yeah,
Graphic design
and it's right
friends.
by it's right by the tip of the collar, so it's like way too high for a design for a jersey
Mhm.
that we're used to at
It's
least.
awful.
It's awful, and the colors are so good. It's based off of the Hollywood Knights, you know, jerseys from maybe 5 or 6 years ago, maybe a little bit
That's
longer.
not
than
old
that, when Cody
enough.
was still playing.
It's not old enough to say we're gonna base it off of this. That's still like
No, but the color,
No,
the
no.
colors are the same. It's that purple and gold on the black background, on the black jersey. I love that color scheme. The design this year is just awful off of it. So terrible.
Here's my proposal. What they need to do, we need to get the NBA Players Union involved and have them elect a representative, who of course should be Kyle Kuzma, and allow him to yay or nay
all of them.
every city jersey.
He had a tweet hating on him.
he was
He
critical of the
was
ones this
hating on
year.
him in the tweet saying, "Man, y'all pump out
Exactly.
every year. They not hitting." I'm like, "Thank you, Kyle."
If Kuzma doesn't feel it, we ain't wearing it. That's how it should be.
You know what? Yeah,
right.
man of the people.
Well, how do you feel about the Knicks ones this year? That like dizzying.
It just
offset
it just has
shadow.
the shadow. Like, come on, Kith. And Kith is like a good streetwear brand, right? And it's like, all they did was put a drop shadow on it, like, so it looks like 3D without the 3D glasses. Come on.
All right.
We don't need that.
Let's talk about
Whose
some people
city
with
is
fire
that?
uniforms and actual swag suits, man. Let's talk about Spider-Man, because at least they got a bunch of jerseys and suits, but at least those suits are clean. And I say that knowing that I've called Spider-Man the dripless wonder for many years. I still remember I can't backtrack that, but at least it's better than what the NBA is doing.
I think the drip game is up.
Yeah, so let's talk about Spider-Man 2 on PS5 exclusive. It's actually been, 4 or 5 years since Spider-Man released with the
4 or 5 years
with the PS4.
Yeah, I think it came out 2018 or something like that. 2018, 2019.
A real high point for PS4 games that year. But now we're moving to the next generation. We've already had our Miles Morales kind of shorter game. It was kind of a Spider-Man 1.5, which was a few years ago, and then now we're back into a full quote unquote full game of Spider-Man 2, which it features both of the Spider-Man together, and in the captions, if you play with captions on, it just says Spider-Man. It doesn't say like Spider-Man MM or Spider-Man PP or anything.
They'll put the little symbol next to their name for you to distinguish them.
That came wrong. Spider-Man PP. Right. Yeah. There's either you get the black mask or the red mask.
Anyways, Brian cannot help himself.
I really can't.
Record scratch.
I'm not known for self-control.
I respect the self-awareness.
Spider-Man PP.
All right. Well, I'm of the opinion. I think my remembering is not super great, but I feel like both of you enjoyed the first couple of entries. How tell us what are you expecting? Did you enjoy those? Is your expectations any higher or lower because of your enjoyment of the first games? Brian, start us off.
I've always thought the Spider-Man games have been a ton of fun, especially just the
Insomniac ones, or like even older ones.
Actually, the original PS1 game, or was it PS2 from Activision? That's a fire game.
Is it?
I never played it. That's a bona fide classic. But the Insomniac games where you actually get to swing through New York City has always been a delight, I think, and a high point for PlayStation. But I have also been very critical of both previous games because of the lackluster side quests and all the random stuff that you do, the simple puzzles that they have you accomplish on doing some of these tasks, and some of the wonky
the spectrophotometry
cinematics.
That was whack.
Yeah. So to me, some of that stuff really drags down what is otherwise a very fun game. It's just like teeming with pure joy, resulting from feeling like you're actually Spider-Man, which is a difficult feat in and of itself. So I would say I was very excited for this new entry in the series. But, of course, with some of those caveats. But I think a big part of my excitement is just because my PS5 has been collecting dust and cobwebs for several months now. And so there's like the first, or one of the, I think one of the first, premier AAA games that we're getting on PS5, in recent history. Yeah, of course, there's like Baldur's Gate and stuff, and if you're into that IP, but otherwise, there hasn't been that major title entering into the library until this one this year, I want to say. So
probably the last ones would have been like God of War Ragnarok, and
that was a year ago,
and Horizon.
Yeah, that was a year ago already, right?
Something like that.
Yeah, and Forbidden West, which was also a year ago. Granted, the DLC
that was a launch
came
title,
out,
wasn't it?
I don't know. It wasn't a launch title because the PS5's been out for like 3 years now. But
Miles Morales was the launch.
Oh, you're talking about the DLC?
Yeah. I'm talking about the Horizon DLC.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. When you said launch, I thought you meant God of War. Sorry, I thought you were referring to God of War as a launch title.
Horizon wasn't a launch title.
Horizon nor God of War were launch
Forbidden
titles.
West was.
No.
Forbidden West was PS4.
Okay. I'm confusing my
what
titles
are the last
now.
two? Yeah, wait. No, Horizon Zero Dawn is PS4.
Yeah.
Horizon Forbidden West was PS5,
Yep.
but Horizon Forbidden West just came out like last year.
Yeah, it wasn't a launch title.
It came out with Elden Ring.
Yeah, it wasn't a
Remember?
launch title.
Because you were like, it stole Elden Ring stole
right. To me, it's
They
a
both
launch
came out
title.
last
That's
May.
when I got the PS5.
Yeah, I'm like, it's a Brian launch title.
It's a Brian launch title.
Yeah, it's a launch. It counts as a launch for me. I love the protagonist mindset.
I'm the main character.
As I should be.
All right,
it's
sounds
my
good.
story.
So, Brian, you're in it. Sav, you've been enjoying the Spider-Man titles. What kind of stuck out to you in the past, and what are you looking forward to?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing was the visual storytelling. The games are just really aesthetically pleasing to look at. The web swinging mechanics for the Insomniac games have been amazing. You really feel like you can do really fun, dynamic moves. The web swing is engaging enough to where you can spend more time swinging around and navigating the city, climbing, doing all the Spider-Man gymnastics and moves. And that gameplay alone is so well refined that you could not care about the combat in the slightest and have a beast of a time. That was what made the previous entries really fun. Not to mention, I actually liked that the Insomniac Spider-Man games leaned into Peter's gadgets more than I think some other Spider-Man content does. You know, sometimes Spider-Man is so known for his webs and acrobatics that people forget that he's basically an Iron Man type character in terms of just gadgets and technology. He just likes to purposely be web themed because he likes to commit to the bit, but he has all kinds of fun gadgets and tools, and getting to use those. Oh my God. But all those gadgets and tools and having that big toolkit really made the previous entries fun. And I think it showed off a side of Spider-Man that people don't see as often compared to, you know, like the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, where I think he's most some of the most iconic, even if it's not the most popular, the most iconic. You don't really get super gadget involved Peter. So really getting to see he's a tech genius. He makes all these cool inventions, things that can launch people, stuff that has nothing to do with his spider stuff was fun. Not to mention Miles was such a breath of fresh air because he has a similar tech-based thing, but then he has a different power set with the electricity and visibility. The game just really fleshed out a lot of what Spider-Man is, not only from what the general audience knows, but actually his comic origins, and they balance it in a way that was very, very entertaining. So that all hyped me up going into the next game.
I totally agree. I think the web swinging to me was incredible on PS4. I was just like, whoa, like everything had weight to it, but it wasn't. It was almost like there was like a prediction to it, right? Like it kind of knew somehow, like the game could figure out, like, oh, this is what you want to do. It didn't make it super complicated. It was like, Spider-Man has been Spider-Man for like his whole life. You know, he knows, or since he was a teenager, he knows how to swing through the air. It shouldn't be difficult for you to learn how to like make him swing through the air. That's like the easiest part of his job. And so there was kind of an intuitiveness to it of just very like, intuitive. Okay, like I hold R1, I swing, the character will like just react to his environment and make a new web where it makes sense, right? Like you're not having to aim a web to a specific place to get the swing exactly right. Like, this isn't Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Which, although they do let you do some moves and they call them the same moves as skateboarder might, or a snowboarder, but it's just so effortless to just swing and like have fun with that, and just like the speed you get at the bottom of the pendulum, you know, where you're running past the people or past the streetlights, like you get that sense like, oh, this is what it's like to fly through the city as Spider-Man. Even though it's not a first person, it's a third person, but it's still really cool. Yep. And then I love that you get to see all these different costumes, different kits. You know, I know Savon likes to make fun of me because I don't love, you know, the swag. That's not my priority. Yeah. But, you know, at the same time, like, sometimes do I wish like they didn't just always be like, okay, put a hood on him. Okay, put some pants on him. We're done. You know, like let's, you know, we could vary it up. We don't have to always just put a hood on him. Like it doesn't look like Spider-Man's silhouette anymore when you put a hood on him, first of all.
Is this a shot at me having a Spider-Man who had the two hoods on? Because I definitely had both my Spider-Man with matching hoods on and capes. Hoods and capes. Hoods and capes, damn it.
I have figured out there's one with capes now. I don't know. I figured out that I really do like the traditional Spider-Man silhouette.
Of course you do.
I gravitate towards all those suits. I've been having him in the one of them in the black suit from Spider-Man 3.
The black Raimi suit.
I've I like that one. I've been using the well, at first I was using for Miles the black suit with the gold designs on it. I've been using one where he's like white with red stripes on him. Like that one is pretty cool, but still those silhouettes, the one I've been gravitating toward definitely have been the ones that are just the bodysuit, not extra, bagginess or anything to it. I don't know why we're talking about this. This was we could get to this later.
Well, the suits are fun because they really do all have, if you're a comic nerd, they do all open a deep cut into, hey, this is from an obscure Spider-Man comic. They're not just making these up. A lot of them have legit inspiration.
Some of them are made up.
Yeah, some are made up.
Those ones they did with the pre-launch.
Yeah, those are made up. But a lot of them are inspired from somewhere in Spider-Man's history. And even if it's not from a comic, the themes they do are still really fun, which I don't want to spoil some of the suits you unlock at the end from doing like side quests. It's like, oh, y'all made this suit up for the game, but thematically, y'all still put y'all best foot forward designing this suit, which I still, not to mention, oh, this is from an obscure comic, and if you're a deep cut reader, you're going to recognize it and love it. You're a random person like me, you might just say, oh, that's a cool suit, and not know the story, but there was a lot of intention done. Like, it was made with a lot of care.
Yeah, there's one that Miles unlocks, or I unlocked it. I don't know how I did it. I must have done some kind of challenge or something. I wasn't intending to, and it just like popped up, and I was like, "Oh, this is pretty cool! Like, I like this suit." And then, what was I gonna say? Oh, and then he has a Shield suit.
Yeah,
I was like, "What was he part of Shield at some point?" So you're right. Like, I didn't, I'm not aware. So that kind of made me curious, and not, I want to go look up like, oh, okay, well, like, what's his history with Shield? In general. So I love that those Easter eggs are kind of in the game just through the suits, and they don't make it super hard to unlock suits. You can change them whenever you want. You could change them mid-air, mid-fight. It doesn't matter. Like, they'll let you change anytime. So you could rock a completely different outfit in the beginning of a fight, switch over to a different one if you want. You want your finishers to be different, and I think Savon would approve of. Let's make this as visually exciting as it can be. The only thing that's been holding me back, because I'm a functional reform guy, is some of the suits cost hero tokens, which doesn't matter. It's just one of the currencies in the game, which are hard to come by, at least at the point I'm in. Like, they're just not everywhere. And so you could spend them there, or you could spend them on other things. And I've been saving them on other things. I'm using them on the all the tech and stuff. Like, I think I'm 2/3 of the way through the game, but I'm probably like 90% of the way getting my skill tree completed and my gadgets upgraded.
Strong enough I want to win the
fights.
All.
I want to win the fights. It's not enjoyable to me to not win the fights.
Too weak to take
it. and Savon goaded me into playing on the highest level difficulty in the game.
Yes.
So I've only been playing on the spectacular mode. Brian, are you playing on? I know you just started the game. Are you playing on?
I play on the default settings. Thank you.
Amazing, medium, a nice medium level.
Amazing sounded perfectly nice to me.
Yeah,
That's a good adjective.
Amazing in the beginning of the game felt a little too easy, and so when Savon was like, "Oh, I'm playing on spectacular," I was like, I could try that. And then there's a part about quarter way through the game where I really felt like, I don't know, they're just throwing bodies and waves of guys at me, and then they're all shooting me from different directions, so you're always having to dodge, and you're never getting a chance to fight them.
Use your Spidey sense.
And then, I had to change up my strategy. I couldn't just combo them to death. That wasn't working. All right, that was a lot of setup. We went on 18 different tangents, as we are wont to do. So from here on out, we're gonna do spoilers. We're trying not to spoil the end of the game. I haven't played all the way through the game. My counter, I think, says I'm at 52 or 58%. Brian said he's just started it. So for those of you out there who haven't played the game and are looking forward to it, you should be safe. We're not going to, do too much in terms of story and things like that, but we'll talk about gameplay. We'll talk about some of the cool moments that we've seen, and we'll get into it. So, first of all, gameplay. Are there any big changes that people should expect? Have you enjoying any changes that you've seen? I'll be honest, it's been so long since I played the first one that I don't remember. It feels very much the same. Like, as soon as I picked it up, I was like, great, I remember how to do this. I'm like long pressing square, and then I just go square, and like beat them up, and then I use triangle, and I know something else happens. And so it seems to me like the combat that they're using is very similar. Puzzle solving is they use different puzzles and different mechanics for the puzzles, but those you pick up on pretty quickly. And then, anytime you got to travel through a vent, that feels the same. And then obviously you are swinging, that's all the same. They invented a big like super launcher mode now where you can like get some good movement when you're traversing the game. And then the web wings have been a huge change. I know those are different. So if y'all want to talk about any of that and how it's changed the game for you, and then you don't have to sit on the subway anymore and watch Miles or Peter just watch their, read their phone, which has been delightful. No stoppages in play has been just, I love
wasn't
PS5
taking the
for
subway
this.
in the last game.
What? No?
Just swing.
You would just swing it?
Just swing it. I was like,
Yeah.
you got me
Miles,
effed up if you think I'm about
Miles,
to play
they did
Spider-Man and take the subway. Like
in Miles, they did have some fast travel. It was nowhere near as fast as this fast travel. But, original Spider-Man did not have fast travel. It was fast travel, but it was maybe 45 seconds of waiting in the subway. Mm-hmm. It was a good long little wait.
That's the shortest subway ride I've ever heard of.
Actually, very impressive.
Not even worth it. Who wants to take a 45-second subway ride? Nobody. All right, tell us, Brian, gameplay. What have you liked about it? What should people expect? What was your big takeaway there?
Well, you mentioned the web wings. I think that is actually a nice addition to traversal. I mean, swinging as Spider-Man through the skyscrapers of New York City is such a big part of the game, and is still totally enjoyable. You mentioned the quick launch option to get you off the ground. I think that's
you like invent like a slingshot of your own self, like a catapult.
I think that's actually like a fun addition. But the web wings, which are basically like cobwebs under the armpits, it's like you haven't deodorized yourself.
Turn into a sugar glider.
Web wings.
Yeah. But somehow it allows you to glide through the sky. I think this mode of transport is also pretty fun, but more importantly, maybe it's more efficient, right? It gets you directly to where you need to go in a quick amount of time without having to do fast travel. You still get to kind of go through the city. We're
just nodding our heads over here.
There's sort of like you fly through circles, right? That give you like boosts to keep your acceleration or your velocity high.
They got like express lanes in the air for you.
Yeah. In a way, it kind of feels like Mario Kart in the New York City skyline.
Yeah, like Rainbow Road.
I think it's a nice addition. It helps. It's just like another way to traverse the world that they built in a quick and efficient way. And then so like there are times when you just want to get from story point to story point. It's like 2 a.m. You got to go to bed. You got work in the morning. Like, let's get to the next thing. Let's get to the next thing.
One more.
I think that's a nice addition. And then, one of the big things about this game, right, is that you can switch. You can toggle between Peter and Miles. And so, choosing to go from one to the other, I think is also a great addition to the game. It reminds me of GTA 5. Switching between 3 characters. In this one, it's 2. And it made me think, like, why haven't we been doing this in more PS5 games? Like, how has this not caught on so widely? It's like such a great way to tell a story, but also keep things refreshing. If you get bored doing some things with one character, you jump over to the other and maybe try to do some of the things that they're into. It just offers a nice bit of balance and variety to the game. But on the flip side, playing as Miles and playing as Peter sometimes, especially when it comes to combat, at times it can feel a little samey, even though I recognize they have different power sets. But I think these are all kind of like smaller tweaks going on in Spider-Man 2 that, have at least they haven't dramatically altered how the game is played, but they do bring a little spice of life into everything.
Nice.
I was trying to make a pun with spice and spider, but it wasn't coming.
Spicer man.
Stop. I'm gonna ask y'all. We're gonna just stop. We're ahead. We're gonna just stop.
Stop. Thank you,
Savon.
No problem. That's what I'm here for.
Save us. Sav, what are you thinking about gameplay in terms of like what we experienced before, what's coming up in this game or what's been in this game? Would you say that they've hit a home run in terms of gameplay, like tweak the things they needed to tweak? I know when we compared The Last of Us and The Last of Us 2, you and Brian were both like, the strides they make were huge, or maybe it was Mike and Brian. We're talking about like the difference in the way that game worked was just miles better. Miles
was
Morales
that pun
better.
intended?
So, Sav, what did you think here?
Yeah, so there were some overall good changes that they made. So here's some things that they changed that I want to point out. To Brian and both of you's point, they updated the web and swinging mechanics so that you can get around more efficiently. The slingshotting, the gliding, the swinging web mechanics. One thing I'll add to that, which made the game really fun for me, is that I turned off the web swing assist feature. So there's a setting.
Oh no! So you were getting drug into the buildings.
So Brian, if you don't know about this, there's a setting in the game where you can basically, how Wes was describing the web swinging as being very intuitive, and the game kind of helps fill in the blanks for you. That's the game with like basically, and I want to say this in a not like a pejorative way, but it's like you have the bumper alleys up to stop you from just swinging and losing complete control and not being able to do Spider-Man stuff.
Oh no, I didn't know I was playing the kiddie version of the game.
Mike told, I mean, it's not the
You're
kiddie
not.
version.
You're playing the regular version.
It's the default setting. It's the default setting. But Mike told me about a feature where you can turn the web aiming assist like off. And what the setting does is basically when you're swinging, you're much more confined to like the actual physics of what your swing movements would have been. So if you want to, so basically it's way harder to pick up speed, get momentum, all of that, because the game is much more realistic in terms of physics. So like if you want to swing and get some real speed and hang time, you got to really physics in your head. Okay, top of the building, short swing, jump at the peak. Because if you don't, you will just slow swing like a kid on a rope. Like, you know how the kids got the little country tire rope over the little river creek and you're moving slow as hell? If you don't know
what you're going to make it across,
that's what happens. So it's a little bit of a learning curve, but, and I talked to Mike about this, it makes the swinging way more engaging to where you're still having fun traversing, moving around, all of that. But like if you want to get the optimal speed, efficiency, you have to really... You just have to be
try.
Yeah, and not like try hard, but you have to be just a little bit more
mindful.
Yeah, you have to be a little more mindful. You don't have to just be on autopilot. And when Mike told me about that, I just said, oh, okay, cool. I immediately set it to 0. It went from 10 to 0, and it took me like an hour to get acclimated. But when I did, the game became so much more fun.
Oh, that's so interesting. That does not sound fun to me. I don't want to have to think about it.
It's not like you don't have to think a lot.
I want Spider-Man to think about it.
Yeah, you don't have to think a lot, but it's just...
but you become Spider-Man.
Yeah, exactly. But now
I feel like Spider-Man.
Well, what I can tell you is that...
I'm flying like Spider-Man.
Yeah, but what I can tell you is that when you have that feature off and you really manage to do some really speedy, like really dope looking swing moves, you feel like, oh yeah, I'm in my bag right now. I'm cooking. Because you know that if you don't do it right, you're just... But that makes the game that
slam
much,
into a wall.
But I think for certain players, that's what makes it more fun. So now, to your point, if I want to swing around the city and do whatever, I have to be a little bit more mindful, and that alone makes the game that much more fun for me. On top of that, I turned on fall damage, so if you really wipe out, you can absolutely eat shit and crash, and I've done it a couple times. But it's fun because it's like, all right, you want to do a cool web move and trick, all right, you better be on your P's and Q's.
Better land it.
So there's that element. In terms of combat, the core combat isn't that different, but a few changes they made that I'm a big fan of. The previous Spider-Man game, there was no block feature. Your only way of avoiding damage was to dodge. Now they added the parry feature, which I like because it just spices up how you have to approach fights. In the previous game, you could just dodge literally everything, and that was how you avoided damage. Now it's there are enemies that you cannot dodge. They're going to do certain heavy attacks, and you have to either block it or parry it or completely get out of the way. Like, don't dodge out the way, relocate out the space. And I think, Wes, that's probably what led to some of your frustrations with how hard the game can feel, because now when you're getting jumped, it's not just you dodge everything. No, certain enemies are going to do a heavy attack that you have to be mindful of, parry instead of dodge, and like that alone, for me, made the gameplay more engaging and challenging, because there's fights where I'm getting cooked, but it's like, hey, you got to learn how to parry. And I welcome that additional challenge to a game that's not really based around being difficult.
I had to parry a lot in that fight I was talking about.
You won't beat the game if you don't learn how to parry, point blank, period. Like, that's really, game really made it clear, hey, this new feature, it's not like an optional be cool sometimes. There are multiple enemies, bosses, whatever, that will do very powerful attacks that you have to parry if you want to just not get cooked straight up. So I like that element of challenge. 2 other major changes.
And the game makes it clear you got to use your gadgets.
Oh, yeah. Which
there's a couple of fights where it's just like, you're not going to get through this if you don't use your gadgets.
And that gets even further.
You just get zombie overwhelmed, basically, what happens.
And another big change was that they actually nerfed...
There's zombies in the game!
No. Well, no. They nerfed a lot of gadgets in the game in a good way. Before, you could throw a web bomb and a concussion bomb, and that would like pretty much just make all the fights incredibly easy. Now, there's only 4 gadgets, 4 main gadget tools that you get. Before, you had like 8. So they kind of consolidated that, which I think was for the better because sometimes the large volume of gadgets got a little overwhelming and they became a little too niche. But the best addition to the combat is that they added the ability power system now. Before, if you had a unique ability, it was tied to your suit, or you have to buy the suit to unlock it, and then you could take the ability and assign it to a different suit, right? So you had the little Rockstar Soundwave effect. You had the Electric Fist Spider-Man. You had the Iron Spider arms that came out the bag. This is all from the previous game.
Man, I don't remember that at all.
What, you don't remember in the last game, the suits had unique abilities tied to them? Jesus.
I don't really remember it very well either.
Suits specifically had, like, if you press L3, R3.
So it was like pay to win almost.
No, because you had to buy the suits in the game, so it's not like you're spending money pay to win. But certain suits had unique abilities tied to them, is my point. Some could make an invisibility field, all kinds of crap. That is gone now, but so the suits no longer have unique abilities tied to them. It's purely cosmetic. But now you have this power system where when you press L1, you have square, all the shape buttons on the PlayStation are now corresponding to power. So now Spider-Man has this Spider Charge, Spider Punch. Miles has his different moves. And as you go through the game, each of them unlock multiple abilities for those different slots. So even by the end of the game, Miles has 8 different powers, 2 for triangle, 2 for circle, 2 for X, 2 for square, that you have to pick between. You can't use them all at once, that offer different utilities in combat.
I'm not even at that point
exactly.
yet.
Yeah. But you know how in the game, I mean, y'all played enough to know, L1 is like your little Spider-Man charge. You get a bunch of those for every face button and then variations of that as you play through the game because of, spoilers. So
yeah.
That was what I really liked about the combat was that
I don't think that's a spoiler.
No,
it's in the trailers.
Yeah, but no, still the stuff that's spoiler right. That I'm not going to open that can of worms. Okay. But point is, even for Miles, he has he has his cool electric based powers, but he might have 8 different electric cool power abilities to the different buttons that you unlock, which just lets you approach combat in a fun way. Which to Brian, I think what you mentioned before, that's what really makes the 2 Spider-Man feel distinguished is as you really unlock their character trees and abilities. How they approach fights, even when I'm switching between them, actually feels really different. Where if I'm playing one, I'm going for this compared to the other one, my MO is this. But this core combat of just pressing square hasn't changed, but they added a bunch of little things around and biggish things that ultimately makes for a much more fun combat experience. They make Miles and Peter much more differentiated. They consolidated gadgets and the ability power system that you also get to augment through skill trees really lets you put your own personal stamp of how you want to play your character, which was all a step in the right direction for a game that, if I'm going to be honest, isn't really going to be known for its deep combat compared to like God of War or even like a Horizon type game.
Do you feel like
I don't think they're going for that?
No, that's not what the game's about. The swinging really does take centerpiece stage over everything else. The combat isn't bad, but there's better. But the swinging combined with the combat, which they improved on greatly in both fronts, is what really pushes the gameplay from like good to great for me. And the swinging takes advantage of the faster load times now. Now that the city is rendered so much more efficiently and better, you can get away with moving way faster. And that's, I think, some of that I want to give props to them taking advantage of the tech of the PS5 because, as we knew from the last one, that big-ass city, you can't move too fast because load times are a factor.
Do you guys feel like the combat has changed so that you are really forced to try different strategies depending on the scenario? Because I felt like in the previous games, you could kind of get away with just like doing the same stuff over and over, no problem. And for me, that's sort of why both games get a little boring.
That's why I play on spectacular difficulty because you do need to use the full toolkit, at least in my opinion, especially in the later stage of the game. Certain enemy types is like, hey, bro, you could beat it just trying to mash square, but it's not. You're making this way harder for yourself. But that's why I think for most people, as you play through the game and become stronger and learn the mechanics, you're going to feel tempted to turn the difficulty up a little bit because it punishes your mistakes a little bit more like viciously. Like, oh, you missed a parry twice? Oh, then you're going to die. And that, so like, yes, but no.
I think except for that one boss fight that I just did with Wraith, who's like a side character, Spectacular's been great. I think it's the right move mostly. So
it's gonna get harder. Right? It's gonna get harder. Like I said, there was some boss fights where I was like getting my ass. I had to like Elden Ring it where
but the alternative is like Brian said, it feels too easy, right? Like you don't want that.
Oh no, it was fun. Yeah, turning up the difficulty was fun. But just know there was a few boss fights where I absolutely lost 10 plus times just learning, okay, that's how I dodge that move. Like you almost go the Elden Ring path of, hey, you're gonna get clapped up by this move, and that's okay. Figure out how to stop it, and you'll be able to beat it, and that makes the combat that much more rewarding.
You just start right there. You're not like being sent back like you guys described Elden Ring. That's not at all.
Oh yeah, Elden Ring. You can say, oh, you got to the final tap or the final phase and you died. Oh well, you can start over and do the phase 1 fight all over again. It's not that. Yeah. You get checkpoints in your phases in boss fights.
All right. Do either of you lean towards one character or the other when you're
Miles,
playing?
Baby.
Miles, definitely Miles.
Miles is such a cooler character.
I play as both.
I mean, I play as both because they're both game, but like, and again, spoiler alert, but Miles puts the team on his back in this game. In my opinion, right. I'm biased maybe, but like, I was like, yo, Peter, what the hell are you doing, dog? Miles is just a cooler character.
He's just one cooler, right? So like all of his storyline stuff feels much more satisfying and relatable. And then secondly, like his power set is also just more fun, right? Using the electricity and just like zonking bad guys, like that is so much more satisfying than kind of like what feels a little bit basic by comparison when you're playing as Peter.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's interesting. I like the Peter combat because it's just like thunk, 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 right? You're doing your combos, you have to web swing, you dodge underneath their legs, you punch them again, you use like triangle, you zip to them, punch them in the face.
Miles can do everything you just described with electricity.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. The electricity doesn't do it for me, but it's cool.
I will say,
I didn't realize that Spider-Man had the iron leg, all the legs. Did he have that in the last game? Was that something he got at the end? Because I don't remember that being in the game most of the way through.
In the previous Spider-Man, one of his suits you could unlock. This is when I said the suits had powers tied to them. One of the suits was the Iron Spider suit, which is
so it came with the legs,
which was the Iron Man suit that he got in the Civil War comic that came with the spider arms that could come out, and that was the signature from that comic run, and that was the reference. In this version now, he just has his own version of it that seems to be separate from the Iron Spider because obviously they don't lean heavily into the other Marvel characters and Avengers in this series. But that was in the last game. That was one of the suit abilities. You could explicitly press the little L3, R3, and he would make, and if you had the Iron Spider suit bought and the ability unlocked, those things would shoot out of his back, and when he punches, they would slash too. They took that and expanded it into like some of his power abilities, which is part of what I meant in my previous point.
For sure. All right. When you're fighting as Spidey or as Miles, what's your preferred method of like taking down the goons, whether it's a crime or like in a base? Like, what are you doing to get the most satisfaction out of that fight? Sav, I want to hear your answer first. Like, there's no finisher. There are finishers.
Damn right.
But there's not one. You can't just like on them. So what is your way to swag out while you're fighting? Satisfaction.
I'm always a big fan with Miles. He has his electric venom punch. I'm always a fan of just a good old electric haymaker. Like, I will play stealth sometimes if I need to just be genuinely smart about it. But I prefer the camp of, it's a bunch of enemies down in the street. I prefer to just jump down Obi-Wan Kenobi style. Hello there. Just jump down. They're like, Spider-Man. I'm like, yo, what's up with it? Let's get it cracking. Come on, let's get the hands jumping. But my favorite thing is to gather up a bunch of enemies with the little web pull that pulls them together. Venom punch so that I can just like punch a group of motherfuckers. And then whenever people are on the ground, my go-to move is to web them to whatever surf. Like if you're like on your knees or on the ground or whatever, my MO is just to web you to the ground. So like if I punch you and you fall, so if I punch you and you fall on your back, web them to the ground.
Fucked up.
If I webbed you up and you got the stuff around your chest, I'm swinging you lasso style and sticking you to a wall. Like anything, if I can have as many people just stuck to a surface, all just that's my like go-to MO. It makes me feel not as evil.
Bondage Spider-Man.
Bondage Spider-Man, BDSM Spider-Man, which I much prefer to, beat the brakes off no safe word Spider-Man, who is just out here giving Batman style concussions. Like some of them finishes, I'm like, all right, that was a little much. You know what? Next time I'm just gonna web this guy to a wall.
You're the nice Spider-Man.
Well, I'm still electric punching people, so don't give me too much credit. But I'm not gonna just hit you with a diamond cutter rock bottom with my super strength. Tombstone power driver.
That's probably more true to comic book Spider-Man, right? Like he's just like webbing people up.
Puts him in the little basket and hangs.
Insomniac Spider-Man is brutalizing these people. I'm like, even if you're holding your punches, dog, if I was punching people like that with my regular human strength, I'd kill somebody. You can only pull back so much.
Brian, what brings you the most satisfaction in a little gang fight?
So I'm not as advanced as spectacular BDSM Spider-Man over here. But so all I know is that if I'm on the ground, that ain't Spider-Man. So like my MO in every fight is like I'm in the air constantly. Like never if one foot touches the ground, like no. That's
restart last checkpoint.
Yeah, that's not how Spider-Man's gonna do this.
I like this.
And so I'm constantly trying to put my enemies in the air with me, right? And like just constantly just trying to keep everything above ground and I think so there's lots of what is it, a triangle press, there's like lots of zipping to people, putting them up in the air, zipping to somebody else while that other person is still in the air, and then web shooters all around to contain the people with guns. I think that's probably kind of basic. I'm not like
the commitment
super...
to being in the air. I like it. I do that too sometimes, but because it's fun. But I respect it. We're going for a ride.
Yeah. That's what I want to do, man. Like to me, that's pure Spider-Man. It's just like he's in the air. He's on webs. So we got to roll with that.
So Acrobat Spider-Man. Then there's MMA Spider-Man. I'm playing. What about you, Wes?
Yeah, I'm doing. I'm definitely the let me just pop you, like let me hit you as many times as I can, get the like slow motion finisher, and I got the comic mode turned on, so like when you do the last punch that kills them, they get like a wham.
That's a feature
that comes above their head.
Oh, I didn't know that was a feature.
That's a feature. I would love to have that. Bow.
Gotta turn that on.
Yeah, whenever you do the last punch on those guys. I don't know if it works in the finisher mode, but if you're just punching, whenever the last hit happens, they go wham or like splat.
I'm so mad I didn't know about that feature.
Right above their head. So it also is helpful though, because sometimes you're not sure if they're like down for the count or whether they're like still in play, because they kind of sit on the floor for a minute. So okay, I could take my attention off that guy. Let me go get this other guy. I definitely use that web grabber. I probably spam that one way too much because it's so fun. Not fun. It's like, it's very useful when you got a crowd of guys coming at you that they all just get heaped up in this one other area. And then anybody left over here on the side, like you can handle them one-on-one now. So you're not just getting overrun by the bad guys. And what else have I been doing a lot of? And then parry, definitely not the thing I gravitated to most. But now that my
like
parry game is better,
I love it.
Yeah, now that the parry game is better, I like it, and you can beat the brute guys a little bit more with that, because they don't really you can't really just like punch for them. You gotta handle them. And then in any scene, like if I'm approaching any kind of one of those bases of some sort, my goal, which is dumb, but my goal is to do the web takedowns where you string them up.
Yeah, the perches, the perch
stealthily.
takedowns.
The perch takedowns, not the one where you slam them from above, but the where you pick them up and then you just web them to the wall or web them to your lines or whatever.
Yeah, grocery bag them up.
I try and get everyone that way. Even the last guy where you could just come down and beat him up because he's just a regular guy. No, let me get the last guy too. I'm looking for that little safe word, and then boom, pick him up, and we're good to go. I like it because it just feels like it's silly. Because they would obviously be alerted once they start seeing like guys disappear, so like the game is the game. But I like it because it just feels like, hey, where'd all your buddies go? They're all gone. You don't know where they are. You have no more support. And then you web up the last guy and it goes game, or mission completed. So I like that mode. The show, or not the show, I was gonna say the story is interesting, right? Like they're tasked with telling a story while you get to just kind of roam around and do whatever. They got all these side stories going on. Have you guys preferred or like had any thoughts on like whether it was a successful storytelling so far? I know, Brian, you're probably not able to make that call yet. Honestly, for me, the story halfway through is like, it's like, okay, I haven't been like super invested in the actual story. And maybe that's why I'm doing all the side quests, because they're kind of fun and neat. And you get to get these like short things like Miles, working to save a community center, and then finding out a little bit about how that was like kind of a switcherooski. Like I really like that like little side quest. I don't know, Sav, what do you think about the story so far? Bringing Harry back in it, having Miles with his little crew helping, and Genki is kind of helping both Spider-Men out. What's been your takeaway so far? MJ's in the frame.
Yeah. The cast of characters in terms of their acting, the performances are actually all really good. I enjoy Peter. I enjoy Miles. I enjoy Mary Jane. I really enjoy Harry, especially for him being such a background character in the previous game, and how they kind of set up some really interesting stuff for him, which, as y'all play through the game, he'll be an interesting character. Even Norman, the characters and the voice acting, the facial stuff, all of that, like their facial expressions, it's all really well done. I enjoy the phone calls where Miles is on the phone with his mom and they're talking in Spanish, and Pete's on the phone with Miles and they have their relationship, and the characters and how they interact all feels very natural and engaging. Even Miles with the girl Haley, his friend / love interest. There's the cast of characters are all very likable and true to some of their comic origins, but also it does a good job of them feeling realistic, but still recognizing that this is a comic book. So like Genki feels like a real dude, but also he's still the hacker nerd in the chair friend doing these ridiculous feats of technology stuff.
In the chair.
But it balances well to where I just enjoy it. The characters all feel like authentic friends who actually know each other and get along with each other, which sells me on the tone of the game and makes me invested in the story in that sense of, I just like watching these characters just interact with each other. Peter and Miles really feel like the mentor, the dynamic they have is legitimately fun to watch on screen, and how they quip and talk trash with each other and all of that. So that's the part that I'm really enjoying. I think it's hard to get into some of the rest of this without maybe getting into spoiler territory.
Just do it.
Spoil it.
I think the stakes, I don't even want to say the stakes. I think that the tone of this game feels less serious in some regards than the last one. In the sense that, like, there's moments where I feel like Peter is making no effort to conceal his identity, and it shouldn't be hard for people to figure it out. And I felt like more little moments like that people cared, I felt were more intentionally thought of in the last game, that they kind of stopped caring about in this game. Like, like when they attack, like the particle accelerator scene, Wes, when they attack the Foundation, right? Craven's people attack the Foundation, all of that. There was a part of my suspension of disbelief that got hurt just a little bit, where I'm thinking, Peter and Harry are at this Foundation doing science stuff, and the hunters show up, and then Spider-Man's there to throw hands and all of that, and no one sees Peter. And all these people interact with Spider-Man, and Harry and him are there, and Peter gets the black suit from Harry. And it was like, there's so many like just moments of, dude, it does not take a lot to kind of piece together who these characters are. And I felt like from a writing perspective, they could have just tightened up on that a little bit. It wasn't like it ruined the game or anything, but it was a noticeable shift from what I felt was different in the last game. So,
well, you know,
but some of that is them being
but
some of that is like maybe they just leaned into it being, they leaned into the comic tone of it rather than the super realistic tone, which naturally, you know, secret identities don't pass the suspension of disbelief test in comics. So,
yeah, I was about to say.
I just think they took it a little more seriously last game, so it didn't take away from the game a lot, but it definitely stood out as like, Peter is sitting here in uniform holding MJ's hand. Nobody about to question this shit. But, you know, but the story itself and the actual acting of the characters is great. Like, I love the J. Jonah Jameson podcast is still amazing. Like, that's still one of the high marks of the show, because Jonah's like, it's like when the worst person you know makes a good point, and it's like, man, Jonah is awful, but this dude is not off base with a lot of what he's saying, which is hilarious.
I could do without the Danica podcast. I don't need it.
I like the Danica podcast. You need somebody who's not doing the J. Jonah Jameson, which I...
All right, let's wrap it up here. If you had to rate this, where are you going? I don't care if you do 0 to 10 or A, B, C, D, F, because Sav hates all things numbers, I guess.
No, I hate your numbers.
I mean, but then why have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5?
I do 1 through 10.
Those don't count. I know. So if you do 1 through 10, what's the point of 1 through 5?
5 is trash.
You're already failing at 6, so you're, you know, you in your mind, like
8.5 out of 10. 8.7. I'll give this game an 8.7 out of 10. The gameplay is great. It builds on everything that made the last game good. It takes advantage of a lot of the dope technology of the PS5 to really be able to just have you be immersed and not break your immersion. You're just nonstop spider swinging. There's no breaks in the action. The new characters they introduced from his villain gallery rogue are all really fun, and you know they have engaging. They made them very interesting. What takes away from the game is, I think there was some story issues of just the writing felt a little moments where the writing felt a little off. And I was like, okay. But the biggest thing that we talked about in the pre-show, this game is short. This game is about, like most places I've read, including...
I disagree, but I play slow, so I don't
most places... Wes, I mean, you play slow and you said you're already like 2/3 of the way through the game. Like, you're already on the back.
Yeah, it's only been out for like a couple weeks.
And you're playing
but I mean, what else do I want from it? I don't know. Like, I don't need to play a game for 100 hours.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, but this game felt noticeably shorter than other single-player games. Like, I'm comparing this to other single-player games I've played. They don't have to last me.
Like Guardians of the Galaxy was short. I don't know. I'm okay with short games.
Which was not a good game.
I loved it. You didn't like it?
No, I didn't play it.
I loved it.
I heard good, but I think
I'm basing that off.
But I think having
and maybe we like different things out of games too. I think you guys like those single player like epic games. Like that's not me. I'm like, because I want to go back to Apex, so I want to have this game, have my fun, make it a cool story, and then like I'm out. I'm good.
I do not want to play full price for a game that I'm only gonna play for like a week and a half, 2 weeks tops. To me, that's not the best value of something. But it was still fun. But yeah, the game is just short. Like even when you look it up, most people you can get through the campaign in like 15 hours. Like that means if you decided to just be a sweat lord, you could beat it in a weekend. And when someone said they beat it in a weekend, I was like, oh, that's a bit extreme. And then I played through it and I'm like, oh, I totally see how you could beat this game in a weekend.
That's how the first one was. You're
felt
right.
Like the first one was
that.
longer. I felt like the first one was longer.
I did it over Thanksgiving break.
Well, biggest critique is just the length of the game. Like even Brian, Brian said he's barely scratched into it and he's already 20%. And I'm like, dude, that's a lot.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
That's
to me.
a lot.
I barely played the game.
That is a lot, dude.
You're just doing mission, no side missions.
But and here's the thing,
because the side missions are still kind of boring.
So here's the thing, and this is another critique of the game. They have side missions, but the side missions don't really amount to much, right? Like for Miles, there's the Prowler stashes, but the Prowler stash is really you going to a location, pulling a couple things, doing a little L2, R2 mini puzzle, and it's like, okay, that was cool. It's cool for lore, because the conversations between characters and the lore you get from the side missions is dope. But in terms of actual gameplay, it's kind of empty calories content. Some of them consist of, like, there's some missions, they include you doing fighting combat stuff, but a lot of, like, the ones for, like, the research stuff for Peter and that, you're flying a bee drone around to pollinate virtual flowers. That's, like, what the hell is that? That's like a Mario Party mini game. And are you saying those missions count for 10% of the game's content? Like, to me, that feels like they padded it out with not very engaging content. So it wasn't just the lack of length. It was okay, even the stuff on the peripheries isn't exactly engaging. Like a big chunk of the content is you going around taking pictures. Okay, that's cool, but I'm not going to...
Are you doing that? I barely do that
But
one.
that's my point.
Some of the pictures are fun.
Some of them are fun, but like, I'm not going to pretend that that's engaging side content that should be
definitely not
padding out a big portion of the game. Even though the missions where you follow the little drones, there's barely any combat. It's you just following a wind tunnel for a little thing for a basic little bit of, some lore after, which again, the lore drops are nice, but just doing mini games for lore drops to me does not feel like quality side content for a game, knowing other games I've played that have frankly done it a lot better. I think this game is carried by the polish and the swinging mechanics and the characters and, the character interactions and story, like the story lore. But I think from an actual extended gameplay perspective, the game is kind of lacking.
All right. You did stumble upon something brilliant, though, I will say. If there was a Marvel Mario Party mashup game, oh my God, I would be all over
that. Would be fun. It's like Marvel Snap meets Mario Party. Put in all the characters.
Iron Man trying to inflate the balloon first. Like, come on, I want that game.
Hulk landing on a Thanos plate and losing his star and raging out. Or there's a map where Hulk just rages through the map and destroys it or something. Yeah, I'm here for it. Marvel Party. Let's get it shaking.
You heard it here first.
That'll be awesome. That's like the Marvel Lego game. It's just kind of silly. I'm going. Oh, Brian, did you want to do your rating?
I mean, I'm 20% in, maybe less than that, but
incomplete.
It's gonna get an incomplete from me for now. However, I will say, based on what I've played and what I've heard from Savon, this game is like a 7 or an 8 or something like that. Nothing in it so far has convinced me it is a must-play, must-own PS5 game.
Lies.
I mean, there's just like so much other stuff out there, like Cyberpunk. Oh, come on, like we want more. I want to see like the very, very best. Right. I think this is probably a very good game. One thing I did want to ask though, like coming into it, I didn't even realize Kraven was a major character in the game. Who's like the best villain rogue that shows up in the game?
I don't know who the best is, but the one I like is that the guy who's like made of stone or something.
Tombstone.
I don't know what his thing is. Tombstone. He shows up and he's like a good guy, and I was like, oh, that's so cool.
Well, the game.
So that's cool.
Well, the game leans
Mysterio actually is in the game, and he has like to me a pretty interesting arc. And you have to do his little Mysterium
virtual reality
things. Yeah, to get to kind of see the whole story, and that story arc was actually kind of cool. I was like, oh, that's like a pretty nice like little story for us to follow.
The game leans into his villains all being rehabilitated, so most of his villains when they appear in the game are actually trying to get their life together and be on the straight and narrow, which is pretty dope. All that's
kind of interesting.
Yeah, like a lot of them, like a lot of the characters when you see him, like even Sandman in the intro, right? His whole thing was that he had other stuff going on with him, but that's spoilers you'll see as you play through. I thought Kraven was a very fun villain. He wasn't always super deep. His very straightforward shtick of I'm just trying to hunt MFs. Who hey, I'm trying to hunt people. Somebody make this worth my while. I want to die with honor. And
Battle Beast mode.
Literally, he's just Battle Beast he's literally just Battle Beast in this show or in this game. And I mean, we all know who the real villain of the game is going to ultimately be because we know that we're getting Black Suit Spider-Man, right? So Venom is a treat is all I can it's not a spoiler, but what I can say is that when you do get to the Venom stuff, it is a treat. But Kraven is a very fun villain for his time in the game too, and for what role he plays. So I think I was very impressed with Kraven and him. I will say I think that like Martin Lee, Norman, and Dr. Octavius were still better written villains in terms of like their motivations and all the other stuff. Like Venom and Kraven provided more spectacle. Norman, Dr. Octopus, and Lee from the last game were like more depth and way more like menacing because they had dangerous stuff about them outside of just having strong powers.
Well, and Peter has a clear relationship with
that
them.
too. Yeah, that too, right? The emotional depth of it too, the depth of the relationship, and yeah, the relationship between Octavius and Peter was so well done that does elevate him as still, I think, a better villain than what you got in this one. But that's more of Octavius being really good. That's not really a knock on the villains in this game. Although Kraven doesn't really have any depth, he's just more spectacle, in my opinion.
Well, I'm going 9 on this one out of 10. I do think everybody should play this. Everybody should get it. Like, especially obviously if you like the first one, but I mean, just like, how could you not enjoy this? You get to be Spider-Man, you get to fly around. His powers are different than so many other like superhero games that you would play. It's very different than like the Star Wars game I was playing earlier, the Lego Star Wars game. Like the combat is just like so much more like impactful. It's just like boom, 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 and you're like doing all these things. You got all different ways you could approach fights. The area that you're fighting in like provides some some trickiness, but also like you're really able to use the environment to your advantage to like creep along the ceiling, or now you can set up these web lines that you can walk around like a little trapeze artist, right? And so like just the way that this game like in a fight makes you feel like Spider-Man, like you cannot top that, I think. Or not that you cannot top it, but like there's very few games I think that hit that level of like involvement, investment, like just like not facility, but just like faithfulness to the actual character that you're playing, that it's totally worth a play. I mean, I don't know. And if you want to feel like Spider-Man and you want to like do different things and fight bad guys and just like henchmen and all this stuff and have cool ways to do it, and it doesn't just feel like, well, I'm gonna like overpower them, or I'm just have to do the same things over. Like even when you're hitting square, the type of attack that he does changes based on like where their position, where they are, where Spider-Man's position. Like the game has all these different ways of actually using the context of what's around them, around Spider-Man, the Spider-Man to fight. Plus you get all these new electricity and you throw people up in the air and you swing them around, like, oh man, I'm having a blast. Any day where I don't get to play Spider-Man, I'm kind of bummed. I'm like, like real life, I have to do adult things. So, we're at a 9. I do think Sav brought up good points around like, okay, yeah, maybe there's a little bit of a lack of depth that the first one had. I'm thinking of the climax where Doc Ock is like literally on the radio antenna and like screaming at Spider-Man about all these things that are wrong, but like it's also, obviously the tentacles are taking over him too. So that heartbreak of losing his mentor, it's hard to top that in this one. Then I don't know that they're gonna reach that. We'll see. Maybe the stuff with Harry will kind of get us there. Maybe. I don't know. You'll see. But 9.
You'll see.
9 for sure. Everybody should get this. That's what I think. But Brian, maybe not.
No, you should wait till this game. You should either rent or wait till this game is on sale. Unless you're a hardcore Spider-Man fan. I just wouldn't pay full price for this. Like, it's a lot of money for just not a lot of bang for my buck, even if the bang was still pretty like solid. I just would have rented this.
Yeah.
It's a good bang.
It's a good bang. I just would have rented it. Like, I just wish I could have rented this for a week and not spent the full price. I'm still going to replay it and enjoy it. And maybe there'll be DLC, but like, I'm not going to tell you, hey, this is drop the full price on this game and play it. Because hell yeah. It feels cyberpunk, yeah.
I disagree. Spend the $70.
I could be swayed by either of you. Both of you make very compelling arguments.
I make better arguments.
That's what I'm saying.
It's so fun. Like, I don't care if it doesn't last 100. Like, you could have a game that lasts 100 hours and not be fun. Like, I'd rather have this. I'd rather have the shorter game that's fun and that's not fucking Call of Duty, So, that's my opinion. I don't know. Whatever. Friends, let's call it there. Hit us up on @confidently_. What are you whispering? Hey, I'm a bang for my buck too, but I got the bang out of this one, so I'm good with that. Let's get out of here. @confidently_pod on Instagram. Hit us up. Tell us what you thought of Spider-Man. Are you playing it? Did you like it? Are you waiting for the price drop, as Savon would say? It'll probably come down in price at Christmas. So if you're waiting, wait a few weeks. See, see if it'll come down $10 or $15, and then maybe Sav will think it's worth it. Or if you're waiting for the red box, you can go get a red box, rent it for 5 days, and then you only spent like $20, and you're good.
Can we get a Mike Breen bang to end this show?
Bang!
Yeah.
Or a double bang?
Bang!
Yeah, where's our soundboard?
All right, friends, we're out here. Bye.
We out.
Later.